Hello again, it's Debbie from acrylicpouring.com. You may have seen the last video that I put up earlier about where I did my first record spins. This is my wooden contraption here to collect all my spills, and I've got my cake decorating wheel just here which I've used. Now I have some paint left over. If you can see very well into the cup there, but it looked so good and there's quite a bit of it and I didn't want to waste that, so I don't have any more records or anything prepared, but I do have a little tile. So my cup contains some silver, this darker blue, a lighter blue, yellow ochre, a little bit of this teal green which I had left over from a previous project. So put those last few drops in the cup, don't want to waste a drop, and then again my special magic sparkle medium, and again that's all out, so the last few drops go in the cup. Oops. So my tile is all prepared. I've gessoed it in advance because I find that the gloss surface, the paint can run off a little bit too much, and obviously because the tile is smaller than the wheel, I've just covered the wheel with a little bit of plastic and then I've stuck the tile down on top. So I'm hoping, yeah, I can't really put it up on some cups, that's just going to make things fly everywhere, so this is as good as it gets. Once it's done I'll need to pick it up off this plastic, but I'm hoping, yeah, I think it'll stay in place. Now obviously this isn't a proper banding wheel, this is just a cake decorating thing, so it doesn't spin very fast or very smoothly, and it does make a lot of noise, for which I apologise. But let's go on and just do another straightforward circular pour like I did on the record, this time on this tile, and use up this leftover paint. Now I know that I've got a layer of white in the bottom of my cup, so I don't want to end up with everything all white, but I think I've got enough colour in here that I'm going to have plenty to cover this tile. So without further ado, yes, I ended up again with the same problem that I had. I was so anxious to complete the whole record when I poured that I ended up with a hole in the middle, so I ended up with a hole here too and had to spin back in and fill up the hole, which has created like a, you know, an extra spiral there. But I still think it looks good. I've got plenty of paint and it is spreading out. I probably want to just pick up and tip just a little bit to cover in these corners and edges, but it's looking good. It's got different colours this time because obviously now I'm closer to the bottom of the cup than I was on the other one. So there's slightly different colours on this pour, even though they were all poured the same into the cup originally. Now bring this back the other way. It would be nice to end up with that spiral in the centre, but it's probably not entirely essential. Bring it back now into the middle of it, and now pour off to these sides. Okay, and then back this way. Now this one's looking quite jewel-like. It actually looks a bit, you know, when you see like semi-precious jewels and you see them cut from the rocks and you see it cut in cut like a slice through the rock, and you see all the different layers. With the circular pour you get all of these different layers out on the corners. It looks really nice. So now I've got everything covered. Probably didn't need to tip it as much as that. I could probably have used the spare paint and my brush. I'm just going to bring that spiral back in towards the centre and see if I'm happy with it. I've got my brush, so I can just use some spare to touch up these corners. Yeah, I probably didn't need to tip it as much as I have done, but still it looks good. It looks, yeah, very, very organic this time. Got some very nice little lines coming through. These are probably the lines of the silver here. I've noticed in the past when I've used silver that it does create some nice outlines. So let me zoom in, you can take a closer look. Just the camera a little bit that way. So it's got a completely different, much darker colour scheme to the record pour. Still got a tiny little bit left in this cup, so if I had a mini canvas, which I do have, I've probably got enough to do a matching mini as well. So I'd end up with a record, a big tile and a mini, looking really nice. So I'm just going to let it sit for a minute and turn the camera off. I'll come back in a few minutes and we'll see if anything has developed. So I've left it a few minutes and not a lot more has developed on its own, and I would like a bit more interest because there's not so much variation in terms of colour in this one as there was in the previous one. So I'm going to take my life in my hands and use my ferocious torch, and I'll see if I can maybe just do it selectively in some areas, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So I get lots and lots of little tiny, teeny cells. This here, a row of very regular, kind of oblong looking cells which are interesting. But again, I don't, well, I'm never really sure because you know these are so small, there's a lot of great detail that comes through. And just by doing it lightly, I've created some more over there. So I think I'm just going to go a bit lightly over this side, not so much as I did here to bring out the really tiny stuff. Let's see what happens. Okay. So that's got a bit more variety and interest to it now than it did with just the plain colours before, and I think having a band of narrower, smaller cells here and then something a bit more spread out on this side, I'm liking that now. So I think this is another winner for me. I'm really liking my my little turntable. I'm definitely going to go on to do something else, and in fact with that little bit of paint I've got left, I'm sorely tempted to go on and try a mini, and also maybe some swipes with the great runoff that I've got here now. So as usual, I'll come back later on and show you what this looks like finished, but for now, let's just zoom in and take a look at some of the close-ups. Looks very nice, I think, and probably as I leave it, a little bit more is probably still going to develop now. Okay, I'll be back in a moment with the finished version. So here's this one all glossed and finished, varnished and ready to go to a new home, and it really does look gorgeous. The colours are really nice, the details of all of the cells stayed really beautifully. It's definitely one of my favourites. So thank you very much for watching. Anytime you get to spin paint around and have this kind of fun, it's always a pleasure. I hope you'll check out the channel, subscribe and come over to the acrylic pouring store and grab your supplies. Thanks very much for watching.